You can't really call stomp a musical. It's more a celebration of rhythm, of dance, of sound. When the cast pounds on garbage cans or bangs their poles on the floor, the vibrating air spreads out through the theater and sets off a chain reaction in the ear. Sound waves strike the eardrum and rattle some little bones. Vibrations from the bones push fluid in the inner ear and stir up rows of tiny hairs. These hair cells work faster than any other receptors to change vibrations into electrical impulses.
There are 16,000 hair cells in each ear, which is a remarkably small number if you consider that there are, about 125 million photoreceptors in each eye.
Those fragile hair cells are all that stand between us and silence. They're constantly threatened by age, illness, drugs, and a world full of loud noises. Exposure to sounds over time causes them to stiffen and die. We start losing hair cells as soon as we are born. Most of the time, we hear dozens of sounds at once. Somehow, we're able to hear them all and pay attention to the sounds that are most important to us. We can be very selective when it comes to what we hear. Consider lunch at a cafe. This man is talking to his friend and listening to what she has to say. At the same time, he hears someone laughing, the sounds of other voices, music in the background, traffic outside, dishes clanking, chairs moving, all at once. He's bombarded with sounds and still able to carry on a single conversation.
The sound spectrum that reaches our ears is produced by many sources of sound simultaneously. These sounds are mixed together when they reach our ears. Somehow our hearing mechanism is able to disentangle the components of the single sound spectrum so as to be able to identify and locate these different sources of sound in parallel. And our ability to do this is truly extraordinary.
We begin to locate sound with our outer ear. The shape of our ear, while kind of weird, funnels sound and helps us determine exactly where it's coming from. Sound waves usually hit one ear before the other, and we can hear this time delay.
We're able to detect differences in time of arrival between sounds at the two ears that are as small as a 6/1,000,000th of a second, which is a staggering number.
Sounds are located by the brain stem and identified by the auditory cortex. Like vision, scientists are just beginning to understand all of the areas involved. Throughout life, we count on sound to alert us, interest, and excite us. And in many ways, how we feel about what we see is dependent on what we hear. We're suddenly a bit more fearful for this skier when we change the score of this scene.
When I'm watching a movie and it's just getting too tense and too awful, I find I can turn the audio off and I can still watch what's going on and so follow the story just fine, but it isn't too much for me emotionally. And that tells you something.
With the performance of stomp, we expect a lot of noise. Making this kind of music demands a group effort from most senses.
I think the only sense that doesn't come into this is the sense of smell. You have to sort of not really look at the line, but sort of visually feel it.
A lot of it is what we see from each other. You know, we get, cues from each other, we get looks from each other, we get feelings.
Turning everyday sounds into music is as old as human culture. We are drawn to rhythm for a reason.
We're constantly seeking pattern in our environment. And of course, rhythmic patterns occur all around us in nature, and we're particularly alert to them because they could signify something. Also, rhythm is very important in such things as walking, running, other sorts of activity that we engage in that involve coordination.
I don't think there will ever be a day again in my life where I don't walk around and find rhythm in walking and breathing. And I mean, that's what it's all about.
Our brain has evolved to respond to patterns from all kinds of sounds. The circuitry for what we hear extends into areas of the brain that help us remember sounds and respond to them emotionally. The mechanics are complex, but for the performers of stomp, there's a simple explanation.
You have a rhythm, and it's your heart, and it has a rhythm. So even if you clap to just, zone into it, it's your rhythm, and it's there.